Hey y'all! So we're going to dive back into chapter 5 today, and hopefully this will be a little bit easier to film today, and hopefully it won't end up so choppy like yesterday's video where I had to edit out all the times I had to stop and cough. Um, so it was rough. I made it through, but I'm looking forward to continuing this chapter with you all. So I hope you're ready for it. The next part of chapter 5 is called The Latter Phases of Love. And the first section of that is called Heart as Drum and Singing Up. Because remember in the story with Skeleton Woman, she is, when the fisherman's asleep, we just went over about the tear, right? The symbolism that she's talking about with the tear. And then the next part of the symbolism is the heart, because when he's asleep, she takes his heart out of his chest and she uses it like a drum. And then she fleshes out and becomes more than a skeleton. And she becomes a fully formed, healthy, restored woman. And so, and remember what she stands for, and so it's all symbolic. And so I'm looking forward to this. Okay, so let me read the opening paragraph to you. Heart as drum and singing up. It is told that the skin or body of a drum determines who and what will be called into being. Some drums are believed to be journeying drums, transporting the drummer and listeners, also called passengers in storytelling traditions, to various and sundry places. Other kinds of drums are powerful in other ways. And then she gives a little bit of a review of the different drums and how throughout history they're all made of different materials, and how those different materials are meaningful and symbolic. And so then she goes into the symbolism of the heart, and she says in Hindu tantras, I think it's tantras, which are instructions from the gods to humans. The heart is the nerve center that encompasses feeling for another human, feeling for oneself, feeling for the earth, and feeling for God. It is the heart that enables us to love as a child loves, fully, without reservation, and with no hole of sarcasm, depreciation, or protectionism. I'm going to keep reading here for a little bit, and then we'll talk about it. When Skeleton Woman uses the fisherman's heart, she uses the central motor of the entire psyche, the only thing that really matters, the only thing capable of creating pure and innocent feeling. They say it is the mind that thinks and creates. This story says otherwise, that it is the heart that thinks and calls the molecules, atoms, feelings, yearnings, and whatever else need be into one place to create the matter that fulfills Skeleton Woman's creation. The story contains this promise: allow Skeleton Woman to become more palpable in your life, and she will make your life larger in return. When you free her from her tangled and misunderstood state and realize her as both teacher and lover, she becomes ally and partner. Giving one's heart for new creation, for new life, for the forces of life, death, life, is a descent into the feeling realm. Remember, in the last video, we were talking about processing emotions and how that can be a doorway into repressed traumas, or old wounds that we've forgotten about, but they've actually impacted us greatly by producing behaviors that came out of conditioning, that maybe these behaviors are no longer serving us. So it's just a doorway into healing, emotions and feelings are. So I thought that was kind of relevant there. Let me find my place again. There it is. Giving one's heart for new creation, for new life, for the forces of life, death, life, is a descent into the feeling realm. It may be difficult for us, especially if we have been wounded by disappointment or by sorrow, but it is meant to be drummed through to bring full life, the Skeleton Woman, to come close to the one who has always been close to us. When a man gives his whole heart, he becomes an amazing force. He becomes an inspiratrix, a role that in the past was reserved for women only. I think it means someone who inspires, I think. When Skeleton Woman sleeps with him, he becomes fertile. He is invested with feminine powers in a masculine milieu. He carries the seeds of new life and of necessary deaths. He inspires new works within himself, but also in those near him. It's kind of like that old saying, change begins with you. And it's kind of like it's overwhelming if you have the desire to make a huge impact in the world, but if you just consider yourself, changing yourself. I mean, I'm thinking of that old Michael Jackson song, the man in the mirror, looking in the mirror. And it's so true. And we can just start with ourselves because it does have a ripple effect in our lives with those around us and close to us, right? Over the years, I have seen this in others and experienced it myself. It is a profound occasion when you create something of value through your lover's belief in you, through his heartfelt feeling about your work, your project, your subject. It is an amazing phenomenon. And it is not necessarily limited to a lover. It can occur through anyone who gives his or her heart to you in a deep manner. So the man's bond with the life nature will eventually give him ideas by the dozens, and life plots and situations, and musical scores and colors and images without parallel. For the life nature, the wild woman archetype, has at her disposal all that ever was and all that ever will be. When she creates, sings flesh unto herself, the person whose heart she uses feels it. It is filled with creation himself, bursts with it, brims over from it. And so then she gets into the power of singing after that. And I think it's just about, the transformation that happens, when we're willing to do hard work and face the areas in ourselves that need to be healed, that need to be corrected and refined, and how it really does affect those closest to us as well. So essentially, if we're willing to do the work on ourselves, we're going to see the benefit for sure. Both just in our life and if we're in a partnership, a relationship with someone, it's definitely going to benefit the relationship as well. If we're not, it's going to better prepare us for a beautiful union with our equal. And so it's really true what they say. You reap what you sow, and even that right there is detailed out in the Bible. In all these different chapters. I think Proverbs talks about it. Galatians, I think it's Galatians chapter 6 talks about that. You reap what you sow. I think it was Proverbs that details out, like examples of that. And then I wanted to share these cards with you guys. These are from a shop online called Blue Chair Blessing. And it's just these beautiful, I believe they're hand lettered, and then mass printed, but initially the original artwork is hand lettered. And so this is another example that goes right along with that. It says, "Be strong and do not give up, for your work will be rewarded," and that's in Chronicles, 2nd Chronicles. So yes, and then of course if we don't do the work, then we're gonna face the consequences of that as well. And that right there is a good example of a big difference in someone who is a true, honest person who wants to grow versus a narcissist who is in complete denial that there's anything wrong with them whatsoever, who can never apologize, who never really experiences remorse, at least that we can detect. And so that's a big difference there. And they're going to face consequences, just like we do when we make mistakes, because we're not perfect either, right? But the difference, like I said, is we're trying. We want to do better. And I think that's what, what all this is talking about. And the benefit is so great. So, so great if we are willing to do the work on the matters of the heart. You know what I'm saying? So then she goes into the symbolism of singing and the power of singing. And I'm going to read this last paragraph here to you. It says, so the singing of song and using the heart as drum are both mystical acts, awakening layers of the psyche not much used or seen. The breath or pneuma, because she actually says up here the word pneuma or breath shares its origins with the word psyche. They are both considered words for soul. So I thought that was really interesting. So it says, the breath or pneuma flowing over us shakes open certain apertures, rouses certain otherwise inaccessible faculties. We cannot say for each person what will be sung up, drummed up, because these open such odd and unusual apertures in the human who participates thusly. However, one can be assured that whatever is enacted will be numinous, and arresting. So it's going to stop you in your tracks. Like those really beautiful, unexpected moments in life when you don't expect something amazing to happen, and it does. And so this reminds me of, I'd mentioned breath work. I don't know if I had actually spoken about it in the last video or just put it in the description, but that's a technique that you can use to access your wounds, because certain breath work types of breath work can actually activate your emotions. And then as you're working through those emotions, you may not even know why you're crying or why you're upset, but then that's like a doorway, and you start to, things start coming up for you that maybe you've repressed, old wounds or traumas, that you can now work through. That's what that last paragraph there reminds me of. And then the next section is called the dance of body and soul. Okay. And she talks about women and just through our bodies, the way God made our bodies, that we naturally live, she says, we naturally live very close to the life, death, life nature. With our instincts, our ideas. If you remember a long time ago in one of my videos, I talked about John and Stacey Eldridge, they're Christian authors, and how they explain how women carry certain traits of our Creator, of God, and then men have these other different, unique traits of God, because we are, made in His image, right? And so here she's talking about women, with their ideas, their instinctual minds, the need to create, to believe, and I just think that's beautiful. And so she says, one might say that women consciously or unconsciously practice this knowledge every moon cycle of their lives. And so she just goes into that, women's cycles and how we're aligned in that way as we're designed. The divine design, meant to be together, to work together, right? Sometimes the one who is running from the life, death, life nature insists on thinking of love as a boon only. Yet love in its fullest form is a series of deaths and rebirths. We let go of one phase, one aspect of love, and enter another. Passion dies and is brought back. Pain is chased away and surfaces another time. To love means to embrace, and at the same time to withstand many endings and many beginnings, all in the same relationship. And that right there is another difference between a narcissist and a healthy person, or a person who's honest and living by morals and values and trying to be a good person, right? That's a big difference right there. Someone who's truly dedicated and wants a committed relationship is not going to just run off and with these cycles. That's the difference. And so that's the test. That's the test of Skeleton Woman, right? When she appears, it's like a crossroads in a relationship. whether it's within a person when they need to do self work and they're a part of a relationship, or whether it's an issue in the relationship that needs to be addressed by both parties. It's just it's an opportunity. Like I said, it truly is an opportunity to strengthen the relationship and to make it more, and to draw closer, and just like what the authors talked about, it's an opportunity to enrich yourself, and then it's a ripple effect, so your partner, and then also if you are in a relationship, the relationship itself will be strengthened. And so these cycles are part of nature. They're important. They're by design. You can see that that's part of the divine design, just all in nature, and we're no exception. So there's definitely cycles that we experience too. So then she gets into a story about a woman who invites death to her home because he's a traveler, and she's not afraid of him at all. And it just talks about, she gives him credit for both being a life giver and a death dealer. And it says she is certain death is the cause of all tears and all laughter. And so this story is called Deadbolt, if you want to look it up. And it's from the Great Lakes area. But yeah, so, because remember, there can't be new life without death first. So after that story, I want to read to you what she says here. It says, to make love, if we are to love, bailamos con la muerte, we dance with death. There will be flowing, there will be draining, there will be live birth and stillbirth, and yet born again birth of something new. To love is to learn the steps. To make love is to dance the dance. I have a little miniature artwork I bought a while back about dancing. I'll show you at the end of the video, because it made me think of dancing with God and in life. So I thought that was cool. She says to make love is to dance the dance. Energy, feeling, closeness, solitude, desire, ennui, I think it's ennui, all rise and fall in relatively closely packed cycles. One's desire for nearness and for separations waxes and wanes. The life nature not only teaches us to dance these, but teaches that the solution for malaise is always the opposite. So new action is the cure for boredom. Closeness is the cure for loneliness. Solitude is the cure for feeling cramped. And so even there's more cycles within yourself, right? Like in your moods, our moods change, everything's constantly changing, and you got to be able to ride the waves. And a narcissist doesn't like that. They're very rigid, and they have to have things their way, and they make sure everybody knows it too. And if you're unfortunate enough to be stuck with someone like that, then you're going to suffer through that very negative energy. And so she says here, at first we all think we can outrun the death aspect of the life nature, and the fact is we cannot. Like the skeleton woman following behind the fisherman, bumping along as he's running, carrying the fishing rod, you can't outrun it. It's just life, and it's just, are you going to accept it or not? And if you read a lot of books on spirituality, and I think like in the bookstore, they call it New Age, type stuff. I've read a lot of different things. I like to be well-rounded and get different perspectives as much as I can. And I'm remembering the term non-resistance coming up, which I actually have another book I want to share with you on that. That is a really enjoyable read, I think. It's short too. A lot shorter than this one. It's a much easier read. I read it like in a weekend. But yeah, that's a concept to look into, is non-resistance. And that's not, it's funny because sometimes you hear people talk about New Age concepts being, what's the word? Basically, not aligned with the Bible, but the Bible has the verse where it encourages us to trust and have faith, where it says, all is well with my soul. And so that to me is a good example of, mentioning non-resistance in the Bible, that we're in God's hands. And, and it's a type of surrender. And I've heard other coaches on YouTube talk about, narcissists want you to surrender, want to break that connection you have with God. And the reason is they want that surrendering process to be to them. They want you to surrender to them so that they can control you. And so that's why it's important as you're going through your healing process to strengthen that connection. If you are a spiritual person, it's important to strengthen that connection you have with God. It was a natural thing that happened as part of my healing. I can definitely say so. I can see how God had a big hand in this whole process for me. And grateful doesn't even come close to the way I truly feel. I mean, it falls short. That word in itself falls short for how I feel, for all of it. And also, here's another, while I'm thinking about it, it's one thing if you're healing to want to get back to how you used to be. And that's not a bad thing. But when you're talking about non-resistance and you're considering other things, it's sort of like you wouldn't be who you are today had you not gone through everything you did. And I'm not justifying horrible experiences. Please don't think I am. Abuse is never okay, period. But, if you have gone through that, I can say for me, going through toxic environments and engagements, I'll just say that, has certainly changed me. It's brought a lot of aspects of myself back that were kind of snuffed out, like when your spirit gets snuffed out. Not totally, but like the light dwindles inside, you're almost suffocated. Your spirit's how it feels, right? So that's like that comes back. And I've had people say it's like you're your old self again. And people call it your glow up. Things like that. But there's like another layer too. That's more so. You're even more now after going through this. Not just like getting back your old self and being healthy and good and whole again. It's like it's even more so. There's another layer. And we don't know what God has in store for us. We don't know, what His plans are for our life. But sometimes we kind of get an idea. He gives us hints and clues. But my point is, if we're willing to be strong and pull ourselves out of all this stuff, you don't really know what the future holds. And sometimes I wonder, maybe I needed to be this version of me to enter this next phase of my life, to even be able to go in the right direction, down the right path. Maybe I wouldn't have even made it to the path that God wanted me on had I not gone through the things I had. Just something to think about, So, it says the life cycles prevail, whether we wish them to or not. So, like, you can swim against the current, or you can just blow up a floaty and just ride it. So, she recalls the story, and she says, in this story, there are two transformations, one of the hunter, one of skeleton woman. In modern terms, the hunter's transformation goes something like this. First, he is the unconscious hunter. Hello, it's just me. I'm here fishing and minding my own business. She has this in quotation marks. That's why I'm doing that. Then he is the scared and fleeing hunter. What? You want me? Oh, I think I must go now. Now he reconsiders and begins to untangle his feelings and finds a way to relate to her. I feel my soul drawn to you. Who are you really? How are you put together? And then he sleeps. I will trust you. I will allow myself to expose innocence. And his tear of deep feeling is revealed, and it nourishes her. I have waited a long time for you. His heart is lent to create her wholly. Here, take my heart and bring yourself to life in my life. And so the hunter-fisherman is loved in return. This is a typical transformation of a person learning to love. Learning to love. And then it talks about Skeleton Woman's transformations. And so I'm going to go ahead and look at the time here. I think we're getting close on time. I don't want this to be too long. And we'll pick up again soon. And I just thank you for going along with me. And I hope you really enjoyed it. And take care of yourself. There's a lot of sickness going around out there, you know. And you need to be healthy. And I'm excited for the future. Whatever it holds, right? Always look on the bright side. So I hope you're doing well. And I will see you again soon. Bye.